First World Order Radio. Finally, we are on the air. No doubt. All right.
There's always going to be somebody in the building on First World Order Radio.
We get on into some of that order consciousness tonight.
First World Order Radio every Wednesday, 8 p.m.
We got to talk about what is taking place on the planet.
There's always going to be somebody in the building on First World Order Radio. First, we need to let you know we're going to be doing more shows, giving out more information on Wednesdays. Wednesday at 8 o'clock, we are now going to make this the hottest day of the week.
Preceding others in time, order, importance. The most prominent parts, voices, or instruments. Earthly state of human concerns in existence. An indefinite multitude, quantity, or distance. System regulates to bring about specifics in the group based on value and natural characteristics. Current radiates electromagnetistics of sound through the air, same as your thoughts transmits it. Preceding others in time, order, importance. The most prominent parts, voices, or instruments. Earthly state of human concerns in existence. An indefinite multitude, quantity, or distance. System regulates to bring about specifics in the group based on value and natural characteristics. Current radiates electromagnetistics of sound through the air, same as your thoughts transmits it.
You need to understand how magical this, something like this every Wednesday can become. So you need to start getting your calendar right, get your schedule right. You need to know our intention straight out.
All right, so, these clues are given throughout the various languages was to piece the puzzle of this ancient mystery school back together again.
And what we plan on doing, both of us, is bringing y'all some surefire dynamite. We're going to take this level up a notch. We're going to have stuff to do here. This is not just going to be about philosophies and theories, shit that works.
You have an activated pineal gland in which I produce this black chemical called melanin. All right. We still waiting for the guard to come in. Brother A. Rashid will be here tonight, so just hold on. But let's build while he come into onto the line. So when you talk about the Kabbalah, what we're talking about really is the science of the Moors, in which that they took that information from out of ancient Egypt, or Kemet or Tamaray, from years of study as being the high priest of Anu. And from those particular teachings, they took it up into, I guess what you would refer to as now as Europe or Asia Minor, as it was prior to that. And when they took it up, libraries and libraries of information was found. As a matter of fact, Christopher Columbus or Cristobal Colon, who was a spy for Queen Isabella and King Fernandez, and also for the Portuguese government, what they did was to send him out along with others in order to find out what happened to the Moors, just giving up the last stronghold of Granada in Spain without a fight. What was going on with that? Well, of course, we hear the story of 1492, Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue, but they never tell you the reason why. Outside of that, he was going to India in order to find spices and gold and gems and emeralds and everything else, in which that is talking about minerals or resources. Really, it was to spy on the Moorish Empire, because they knew that we expanded it from more than just outside of those particular kingdoms into an actual empire, in which that we was doing international trade, import and export around the world. So they wanted to see how advanced and how complex our system was, because they wanted to know and learn how to do it themselves, and that was the end result. As a matter of fact, if you get Black's Law Dictionary 4th edition, as we were saying last week on the show, you will read up in amorality as well as also consular courts. And you find that consular courts was abolished by President Eisenhower in 1956. All right? And it said it was the last court was Morocco, right here in the United States, which was abolished in 1956. However, if you get the definition of amorality in the fourth edition, it says that that the amorality courts took over from the consular courts after the fall of the last of the Western Empire. Now, like we said, this we are living in the West. Allegedly, this is the Western Empire, but the question is, when did it fall? You know, and obviously by that definition, we can say that they were not referring to this particular empire. Obviously, they were referring to the last empire, the empire that was here prior to them, but they never give any historical facts concerning that last empire, but at least not openly, in a sense. You know, of course, we know that the Olmecs, or known as the Shi people, all right, or the Xi'an people, were some of the last people, actually came from the interior of Mexico on up into the Mississippi Delta and spread it out throughout the South, on up into the North region, across the Great Lake area, and on up into California, and basically surrounded the United States towards the borders, based on the fact that that's where the water supply was. All right. In doing so, you will find information in the 1800s. Matter of fact, it's from the Nexus magazine. Brother Hakeem H.Y. spoke about this, in which he stated there was an article some years ago in the Nexus magazine. I suggest everybody go and get the magazine. It's spelled Nexus, Nexus magazine. And in the magazine, they was talking about when the blacks ruled the South. Of course, you know, we watched the movie Roots, in which that's been inundated within our psyche since 1977. The only thing blacks ruled, from what we've seen, according to the movie, was Kunta Kinte turning to Toby and them running after Toby and him trying to run and get away. That's the only running that we know about. You know, we didn't know that blacks ran the South, you know, during the Civil War and, you know, and during that time period. So there's a lot of things in which that we don't know about in history, in which that's been revised in our school educational system. And for some reason, older folks, at least 2-3 generations back, did not get the same information. You know, it seems that great-grandmother knew who she was. You know, she told you that she was Choctaw, Cherokee, or, you know, Seminole, or etc. So we know that there's a lot of information which that we did not know. Now, when it comes to this Kabbalistic information, or the Kabbalah, in particular the Holy Kabbalah, you can get from A.E. Wakes. He specifically states that the Kabbalah was actually formatted by the Moors, and that the information which that was left within the libraries throughout Europe is how the Kabbalah came to be, through various so-called Jewish priests, you know, Levi and others, in which that was able to take this information and parlay it and make it their own, you know. And so now we think that the Jews have a monopoly on this information, when really is metaphysics, you know, in book form, coded. All right, and so that's what we going to be talking about tonight. And we get ready to bring Brother A. Rashid on right now. Brother Rashid, you here?
Peace, Lord.
Peace, God.
Man, God's work is never done.
No doubt.
So while I'm on the phone with you, I am approaching a more quiet place.
All right.
So, you know, it's the streets in L.A. is off the chain. They're going in every day. But, so peace to you and your family and the listening audience. I hear you talking about, no question, I hear you talking about A.E. Waite. So, I definitely, when I talk about Kabbalah, I always got to make distinctions for people. You know, I got to make clear distinctions for them so that they can understand that when you're talking about Kabbalah, you're talking about The question is, what aspect of it are you talking about? You know, because there's a living tradition that involves Western magic. In the Western magical tradition, when people say Western magic, what are they talking about? The Western magical tradition is the one that involves a far more comprehensive indulgence in Western psychology. When I say Western psychology, it's, you know, the thought processes that created how the West was won. You know, how the West was won. So it was won with rhetorical arguments and a skillful use of sound in the form of word play and creating what you want to call, or what I want to say is creating what you want to call synonymous, symbolic referencing to extend the meaning of particular concepts. So to understand a concept in multiple layers, one must have multiple connections to it. So when you look at the school of thought that A.E. comes from Hermetic traditions that indulge themselves in Kabbalistic studies. But they're far more rooted in what is commonly considered what I want to call Hermeticism. You know, that's actually what they were dealing with. Now, Kabbalah is a process. So as a process, it's something that is predetermined on a set of rules and factors. And these rules encompass a series of us being able to tap into specific, what I want to say and what I want to call symbol literacy, factors, like factors in the same way that numbers have factors and numbers are a factor. Hello? Hello?
We here, God.
Okay. In the same way that numbers are a factor. So now, numbers are factors, and the root word of factor is that each number is a fact, meaning that it is a predetermined reality that has its own truths. Now, words are always subject to interpretation based off of the psychology of the people using the word, but numbers and the numbers associated with these words transcend human intelligence. So now when we take all of that, what I just said in consideration, it's very interesting when we take also into consideration the fact that the Kabbalah is essentially a child of biblical contemplation. So the Kabbalists are those who contemplate the stories of the Bible and in their contemplation render their own interpretation. So you would think that this would be a huge subject area that black people would indulge themselves in. However, I have unfortunately been fighting a journey for quite so long. I've been on a journey for quite so long to introduce black people or people of color to the modalities, content, and experience of what Kabbalistic contemplation is about. However, there is a blockage, and the blockage is an historical one. They are angered by history. Many of them are just coming into contact with this information that we've been, that I have in a short course of about 6-7 years, been imparting, and people just haven't got caught up to the ability to sit down and contemplate anything spiritual, you know, long enough to actually appreciate it and then allow that to transform their psychology. So, you know, Kabbalistic dynamics are the current of the language constructs exploited and utilized to advance civilization by all ancient peoples. They didn't have to call what they were doing Kabbalah, though. They weren't caught up in having to define a particular modality of mind by a racial parameter. You know what I mean? So, how did Kabbalah get to the world at large, how we have it now? Well, it's generally a Moroccan import based off of what the Moors imported into the realm of Europe via the 7-Eleven endeavor. So during that period, before we got there, first of all, I want to say this. Before we even got there and ventured ourselves on the shores, we had entered a land of persecuted people, and the persecuted people were people in history called the Goths. And these people the Goths were the ones who were the tyrants, and there was a Jewish population there. Now, they never completely described the racial construct of these Jews. And when we say Spain, a lot of people are under the impression that we're talking about white people. And if you look at a map and you see how far Spain is from Africa, and you learn about geography, you learn about the human experience that people have always traveled, people have always taken journeys. Why do people think that we were simply isolated in one part of the world, but yet we pontificate all of these great spiritual and economic achievements? So it's very naive to just think that we were in one place. So I'm saying all this to say that the people, when brothers and sisters arrived, the people that they found there could very well have been people of African descent. Now, if they were not of African descent, this is one important factor to take into consideration, the fact that they had a African dynamic undergirding their spiritual practice and their ability to impart truths. So now, what happened in 7-Eleven is that now that there was a new rulership, Islam allows people to explore their unique spiritual approaches to reality. And along with their ability to explore it, it allows the cultivation of science and various other spiritual and political endeavors to come to fruition in their community. So Islam brought to the world at large, it brought the environment to actually appreciate the sciences, and the science was imparted through linguistics. A lot of us want to neglect the use of language, or don't even adhere to the clauses in the English language, and yet we want to speak about foreign languages and getting back to my language. I want to get back to my language. You always hear people say, they took my language from me. I want to speak my own language. Well, you are speaking your own language. English is a derivative of ancient forms of word usage, and it still has operative linguistic principles and powers inherent in them, but these powers are not, they're not made available to people who don't indulge themselves in how the West was won and how Kabbalistic parlance, how the concept of the astral realm became the content for the whole dialogue of creating an environment of commerce to give you a dollar bill that has, for all intent and purpose, a Kabbalistic, it has a Kabbalistic talisman on it. And that Kabbalistic talisman encompasses not only do they incorporate commission principles with the eagle as Heru, but they also place him in such a fashion where he is now utilized as the conduit by which to transform through the ego the energies of war and bring them down into the realm of physicality. As you can see, whenever you see the bird or the eagle or the Heru image on the dollar bill, as it is looking towards the ribbon that says E pluribus. E pluribus is a Kabbalistic code, one by which is utilized to encrypt a numeric valence, one that's equivalent to the number 123. So now 123 equals a very significant number and word, which means the word war. So now, I really I really indulge this type of conversation to people who indulge themselves in the actual study. And if you need the details on what it is that I'm trying to impart, the details are fully loaded inside of my books. So I encourage people to buy my books and
Brother Rashid.
Themselves. Yes.
Name the titles of your books so the people can get them and the prices and everything.
Okay, I have the one that I have as of most recently, the most readily available one is the Kabbalistic and Metaphysical Interpretation of the Square Compass and Letter G. It's a book I composed to dispel a lot of the myths and the lies made by ignorant people and those who listen to ignorant people in regards to Freemasonry. Freemasonry is one of the most, important. It's the fourth major world religion in existence, and it has a great many truths enlarged inside of its rhetoric that can unlock for the psychology of the populace here a means and ability by which they can actually they can advance themselves, psychologically, and free themselves from a great degree of or a great deal of all of the pain that has been placed on them based off of the superimposed ignorance. But that book is awesome. I also have the Kabbalistic and Metaphysic War in Iraq, where which is a hit. It sets forth taking people beyond just sitting there and giving them the conspiracy, is showing them how the conspiracy is operating. Do you know what I mean? There is one. And that's what we got. And I also got the Kabbalistic and Metaphysical Interpretation of Hurricane Katrina, which is a certified classic and very timely message regarding the sorcery that was implemented during that catastrophic event that displaced many women and children in Louisiana to open the way and create a new sense of whatever they're trying to do in that region of the Americas. At any rate, I do have the Kabbalistic and Metaphysical Square Compass and Letter G available for your listening audience or whoever, if people download the show in the future. I have it available in ebook form, and my email is QABBALAGOD@gmail.com. It's QABBALAGOD @gmail.com. QABBALAGOD @gmail.com.
Right. Give us your website.
The website is aarashid.com.
All right. Now,
aarashid.com.
All right. Now, can you give for us some books in which that they might want to get or study? Besides for your books, for example, like the Kabbalistic Encyclopedia by David Godwin, or some other books, in which that will help them understand the Kabbalah and the teaching, of how to quantify the numbers with, the letters, coming from the Hebrew, because we know that the same science is within Arabic also. So,
you're right.
Help the audience out so they can begin to like you said, they lagging behind as far as with these sciences, so we gotta catch them up.
Yeah, seriously. The Google scholarship thing is over with. I mean, you know, I know you from the era of book reading. You know what I mean? But the new thing is people are enthused by this whole internet craze where you could just Google anything and then get on the internet and sound like you and smart. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And you know, I mean, that's cool. You know, it gets you the jollies for a minute, but it doesn't tie you into the real conduit where the power lies in the scholarship. There's power in scholarship, and the power lies in you getting deeper. So books, I generally tell people to get. I don't always tell people to get Godwin's first, because I had plenty of people went and got Godwin's, and then I told them what to do with it, and they never did what I told them what to do with it, and that's because they're really not readers. I told them to read the introduction of the book. You know, the books have introductions and prefaces. Why are you calling me, asking me how to use the book? Oh, it's because you never read the intro. You know what I'm saying? You know, and then the intro clearly gives you. I mean, people wouldn't even need me at all if they read. You understand? If they read, you know, at one point you do need a reinforcing hand in what it is that we're talking about to get people to respect it and to have a sense of confidence as they indulge in this science and the study of what we speak of. But at the end of the day, it don't mean nothing unless you read. You got to read, you know. You got to read, especially that book in particular, read the introduction, and the book opens itself up. Another great book, and I say that it's great, and I really mean it, is by Dion Fortune, Mystical Kabbalah. That is one of the, in my opinion, that's one of the best books ever composed on the subject of metaphysics or spirituality, period. The author, Violet Firth, a.k.a. Dion Fortune, was a Golden Dawn initiate and also a master in her own right. And her claim to fame is her refined overview of the dynamics regarding psychic self-defense. And many of us are plagued by attacks psychically. You know, so many people are plagued by insecurities because people around them have not taken, especially parents in that respect, have not trained children in how to defend themselves emotionally in a world that don't care about them. So you find adults that are always talking about something, somebody doing something to them, or they're tired of this, they're tired of that, they're tired of being pushed around and all this. It's because they don't have the spiritual and or psychological equipment to deal with the subject of self-esteem. So how do you get there? You got to get there through a coherent understanding of spiritual factors and spiritual principles. Self-esteem is a psychological conceptualization conducive to magic and making your abundance real. If you don't have self-esteem, none of your magic works. And this is why a lot of people are so distraught. They're going looking for elixirs and looking for somebody to fix everything for them and read them and tell them stuff about themselves. You know, it's interesting what's going on, but I'm not tripping. It is what it is. They couldn't have a circus if they didn't have no suckers. You know? That's what Barnum and Bailey said.
That's the truth of the matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, what it is that, you know, people like surface information. And they, like you said, they get the, you know, the kudos for surface information. But when you get deep into this metaphysics, you know, ain't nothing can be said, you know, and then, you know, where's the audience? You know, oh, well, man, that's too deep. Or, you know, you went over my head. Went over your head because you're not reading. You're not studying. You know, like you said, we from the eras of when we had to read. You know, so getting on YouTube and listening to a nigga, clip for 10 minutes ain't gonna cut it.
Right. It's not. So the other aspect I want people to understand as far as Kabbalah is concerned is this as well, that when you hear names like Aleister Crowley and names like that, that's not Kabbalah. That's not Kabbalah in its traditional sense. It could be considered, it can come into the realm of it because it's an indulgence of certain biblical principles. However, at the end of the day, that's not what it is. And you go to any of the ultimate writers on the subject, like one of the world's most renowned masters on the subject mentioned Crowley on one piece of paper in some of his books, where he could speak about it with such erudition and so much clarity, he didn't even need to mention Crowley's name. You heard? But once, just to say that the shit that he's doing is just not real. You heard? And that author's name is Gershom Scholem. And he's the one who kind of led the way to making Kabbalah a scholarly undertaking and exposing the spiritual role that Morse played, in the magical traditions that the world has at this point. It was always, in the beginning, it was a tradition based on writing. You had a significant writer in Spain at the time. He was the equivalent of nobility. He was even called a prince among his own peers at the time. His name was Ibn Barun. And Ibn Barun, they call him a Spanish Jew. It was Abu Ibrahim Ishaq Ibn Barun. And they say at the end of the 11th century, he produced his work entitled the Book of Comparison between the Hebrew and the Arabic languages. Now, let me tell you something. At the end of the 11th century, that's the 1200s. That means that we had already been in Spain 400 years already. Now, how is it that a Jew has an Arabic name, Abu Ibrahim Ishaq Ibn Barun? It's because it's a Moorish paradigm there, and this is the fact that he's able to cross-reference language comes from the fact that he obviously had the keystone of African consciousness involved in his psychology. The Timbuktu movement is a spiritual movement based and rooted in scholarship. You know what I'm saying? The people who composed the Quran were metaphysicians of the highest order. Metaphysicians who could, hello?
Oh, yeah, we hear God.
Okay. Metaphysicians who could bend time and space with all of their various, abilities,
And see, that's the real science, because that's what I was saying in the little quote that I wrote today on Facebook, and that basically the highest level, consciousness that we want to be able to get to is being able to dissolve the physical body and transform into, what we call the ethereal or light being. You know what I'm saying? And that there's been many ancient masters who have been able to actually accomplish this feat, and it comes through the science of the holy breath. You know what I'm saying? And, really when we get down to these particular books, holy inspired books or teachings, it always comes back to the cycle of the science of breath. And I know, like,
in the Bible, the symbol of the breath is the female Rachel.
Right.
Whenever you hear that term, Rachel is speaking about the Ruach.
Ruach, that's right.
Yeah, they always have that character in movies, and either she has red hair, or throughout the movie she's gonna wear the color red. And
right.
that's just a if they run the industry, they put the symbols as they perceive them within the psychology of the people watching it. And that's one of the most pervasive symbols, because the breath the breath, of course, falls and brings us into the realm of form, but it also is the conduit which acts as an anchor that unifies the populace. So anything that unifies the people and has a control over physicality like the breath does, it has a female connotation. It's like an emanation of God is in the breath form, you know. So the languages that begin with the breath sound, like Arabic and Hebrew, they start with aleph in both languages, and we start with, and it means ox, and we have that aleph in the form of our letter A, which if we take the letter A and turn it upside down, it looks like an ox with two horns. So it's the same principle. So to stifle it, to put discipline on it, we put the letter lamed, and the letter lamed is actually derives, it means discipline, and it derives itself in symbolic connotations from the flail held in the hand of the pharaoh, because you know the flail was utilized. The crook. The flail was to beat, the crook was to pull in. So if you look at the crook, it's like a spinning. It looks like a pole with a curvature at the end, and over time that curvature became a 90-degree L. And the sound L is when you put the tongue, the tip of the tongue, to the roof of one's mouth. And when you do that, you discipline the ox, and that's why they called it the ox goad. You know, they called it the ox goad. So as the ox goad, the aleph, the sound that bursts throughout the universe and is the conduit for all things to make themselves manifest, it becomes disciplined and brought into the realm of matter. Now, this is very significant. Now, when we put L at the end of it and we discipline it, now we have the term synonymous with the surname for many Moors, which is the divinative article also in Spanish, is L or L, or when somebody goes to, somebody says the, is either de or L. So here we have ancient word usage, because the sound de goes from, the D comes from the T sound, and the T sound synonymous with the place of something. So, you know, language, I encourage people to buy my DVDs, listen to, you know, you can go Google some stuff on YouTube, but you want to get right at me. You know what I'm saying? You can call me 347-687-6765. You know, serious callers are always accepted. You know what I mean? I truly appreciate that. But you know, because a lot of people call Alim and they want to get the jollies, they want to talk, and that's cool. But when you do what I do and what we do for the people professionally, much of our time and much of our work is related to not sweaters. It's about the betters. You heard? And once we get the people who really want the information out the way, then perhaps we could just chill. You know what I'm saying? But we ain't get there yet. I ain't chilling.
No doubt about it. For those, you know, biblical, you know, readers, thou rod and thou staff that's mentioned within Psalms 23 is talking about the crook and the flail of the Kemites. So it's the exact same thing in which that Brother A. Rashid was just breaking down to you all for those that want to, go and do more research on that.
Oh, so do you got any callers? Maybe we could take some comments, questions, concerns.
Yeah, we got some questions in the chat room. We got let's see here. We got a question. The question is the Kabbalah an actual book like the Bible? Or no. The word
no, it's not a book. It's a set of traditions that has been codified into various books.
Right.
So whoever asked the question, if they were to start studying it on their own and wrote a book on it, their book is a Kabbalistic book.
Yes.
You understand?
Yep.
Like their book is now a part of that living tradition, you know. But the rule of it is, it's really. I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna say this because some people will say the rule is that in order for it to be Kabbalistic, it has to be indulging itself in the contemplation of the biblical narrative, and has to have cross references back to the narrative. But one of the most significant books of Kabbalah, the Sefer Yetzirah, rarely, if ever, uses any biblical references. In fact, it's not even an ancient book. I'm not yet respected by the realm of Eurocentric scholarship to posit this new reality, but I definitely want to start the conversation that the Sefer Yetzirah is not an ancient book. It's actually a Moorish book for grammar and spiritual grammar. It's like spiritual grammar because it tells you where the potencies of various energies in the universe lie within yourself and external to you. And this was a contemplation that it was like an Arabic mind writing in Hebrew words is what the Sefer Yetzirah is. You know what I'm saying?
No doubt.
Like somebody that was familiar with like tremendously familiar with the language nuances and everything involved in it, said, yo, let's write this book. And then it was, because it's from that Islamic tradition, the Islamic tradition is always to remember things. So it's not about, true scholarship is not about just sit and pontificating. It was also an endeavor by which people were memorizing stuff. You know what I mean?
Right.
Memorizing stuff. So.
Yeah. Now, God. Now, when we gonna put our book together? Now, we've been talking about putting a book together since 2005. Man, you know how I go. Brothers be busy, but I'm ready, man. No doubt, God. We're going to go to the phone lines. We got area code 321. Area code 321, you're on the line.
How's everyone doing? How's everyone doing?
Oh, we doing good, bro.
Oh, okay.
You got a question?
Yeah. I'm interested in getting your book. What's your email or your number?
My email is QABBALAGOD. Quincy Apple Beta Apple Larry Apple G as in God, O as in ostrich, D as in David. Kabbalah. God at gmail.com.
QABBALA God at
right. No, at Gmail. At Gmail.
At Gmail.
Yes, sir.
All right. And definitely my ancestors definitely been pushing that on for a minute. In fact, I recently found a whole bunch of books, free books in the Kabbalah.
Which ones were those?
It was the Zohar. I found the Zohar. I found.
When you say you found the Zohar, it's a lot of publications that say Zohar. The Kabbalah Center, they provide a version, which is a Hebrew version. It's a translation from the original Aramaic into a more a conventional Hebrew. Then you have a translation that's being created right now by a gentleman named Daniel Matt for this woman named Margot Pritzker. So this guy Daniel Matt is a master of Kabbalah and a very popular writer on the subject. However, his life he's been fortunate enough to make a living simply by translating the Zohar, which before that he was writing a book about nothing. like literally, about what's called the Ein Sof in Kabbalah, the limitlessness or the concept of infinity, which is a spiritual principle, one that's highly, that comes into high spiritual focus in many spiritual traditions, in particular Indus Kush. They had a big, tremendous indulgence in the concept of zero or nothingness. But the Zohar is a book written by a brother named Moses de Leon in Spain, 13th century author. And he uses what's called neologisms, new uses of language. So it can't be ancient because there's words in there that's Spanish. That's, imagine me telling you something in African psychology, but I use Spanish words. I'm going to use words that were never used in the same way in Spanish language, but then I'm going to also include Arabic nuances as well as Hebrew grammar. So the book was just authentically new. So a lot of people will try to tell you that the Zohar is ancient and it should be this rabbi named Bar Yochai, whatever, from the 1st century, and that's not the truth.
Yes.
But I hope I answered any of your comments, questions, concerns, and I look forward to seeing you in the email if in fact you're serious about studying it.
Oh yeah, definitely. I've been serious for a minute because it's been pushed on me to study it. I don't know why. It's just been pushed on me a lot by times everywhere. So definitely. So if you so you gave your number out too, right?
Yeah, 347-687-6765 is my phone number. So if you feel free to call. 687-6765.
All right, definitely.
All right, thank you, brother.
Thank you.
All right, we got another caller here. Area code 215. Live on the air.
Peace. How you feel, brother?
Hey,
this is Mo. I'm calling from Philly.
Word.
Philly in the house. What's good?
Peace. Yeah, I seen you at Black and Nobel, and when you did the phonetic fingerprints of the gods, and I swear it was one of the best lectures I ever seen in my life. I got a couple questions on Kabbalah. Since that lecture, I've been studying, I've been getting books. But what's the difference between Jewish Kabbalah, Hermetic Kabbalah, and Kabbalistic magic? And when I say magic, like I was reading books where they line up the gods' names, archangels, angels, all the way down through the different cipheras. What's the difference between the three?
It's historical and cultural differences. The Hermetic Kabbalah is the Kabbalah indulged in by the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. That's the group that Crowley and his contemporaries, A.E. Waite, McGregor Mathers, Dion Fortune, all of them were a part of that. You can generally see that spelled with the Q because that's the one that synergizes with what they call Kabbalistic magic. You generally see all those books are cookie cut. They say the same things. They tell you to do a dispelling ritual and draw the pentagram in the air in front of you. They'll show you archangel names and stuff like that. Now, Kabbalah that's quote-unquote Jewish is one that's more predicated on the study of the biblical construct, biblical context. You heard? So it's an indulgence that it spans essentially a far older system of contemplation. Whenever they, and I don't want to say old, it gets spooky and ancient because the Bible and all that is not ancient. If you know 100 people, if you know 10 people that was 100 years old, that's 1,000 years. You heard? If one person knew somebody that was 100 when they were 10, times that 10 times, and that's like 900 years. So we 10 people away from 1,000 years. You know what I'm saying? So we could keep a story together, even if our meaning of the story changes. We could still keep the story together if we got the context there. So the Bible is one of those stories that has been maintained for the longest period of time, and now this has different meanings to different people. So the Jewish Kabbalah is the one that deals with more of permutation of numbers, contemplation of the alphabet. You have certain streams, like you had this guy named Ibrahim Abulafia. He's the one that originates what's called ecstatic Kabbalah. His Kabbalah is a contemplation off of the ecstasy felt by the adherent when they jumble and mix together words in their minds. Like the word Amen. We are familiar with Amen when we hear it in our indulgence on Commission culture. We hear it at the end of the prayer in Islam. But what if we were to take the word Amen and jumble it? If we only had 3 consonants, Aleph, Mim, and Nun, we would go Mim, Aleph, Nun, then we could go Mim, Nun, Aleph, then we could go Aleph, Mim, Nun, then we could go Aleph, Nun, Mim, then we could go Mim, Aleph, Nun, then we could go Mim, Nun, Aleph. So we jumbled the words. We turned one word into several different meanings. So the ecstatic Kabbalah was inclusive of you being able to jumble words in such a fashion where the jumbling of the words allowed now you the ability to have all of the associated meanings and devices of psychology required for you to understand fully. Now, that's one aspect of it. They have another aspect called Zeruf, which is kind of what I just described, but it's a little more complex, and it's one of the subsets of Gematria. Gematria is taking grammar and putting numbers to the grammar to pull numbers out of words. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
So now that's one aspect of it, and that's one aspect of Jewish Kabbalah, but that's one that the Hermeticists use. Now, when you start hearing about archangels and all that, some of those archangels that they be talking about, them joints ain't even in the Bible. You know what I mean? They're not even in the Bible. They're not spoken about nowhere in the Bible. You heard? Nowhere where, and they come from the what are called kedushas or innovations of the writers and Kabbalistic compilers of the day. They'll create their own innovative and contemplative means and methods of understanding particular concepts, and use as a rule a biblical verse to back up what they're saying. So now this is what got me into Kabbalah. I wanted to know what the word Nephilim meant. You heard? So I found that when indulging myself into what Nephilim meant, it didn't mean giant. That's like a sick way to throw everybody off. Just make up a word that means something in one context of reality, and the shit don't have nothing to do with what it presents in the biblical narrative. And then you got all these people running around for giant bones, and anytime they see a giant bone or dinosaurs and shit, they saying those are the Nephilim. You heard? But the Nephilim don't have nothing to do with that. The Nephilim deal with breastfed babies. You heard? And it speaks about the aliens come from breastfed babies. So a baby that ain't breastfed is not transdimensional nor cosmic. You heard? You feel me? So that's really the general context of the narrative, because it's speaking about the part or the apparatus of the physical body that becomes enhanced as a result of that level of nurturing. You know what I'm saying? So Masonry is Kabbalah because why? Because it uses the biblical narrative to prove its spiritual point. You know what I'm saying? So they got a character that they just make up out of nowhere called Hiram Abyss. You heard? Hiram Abyss is not in the Bible. There's 2 Hirams in the Bible, but the Abyss is an innovation. It means father. But the word Hiram don't mean nothing but Chi is the root. You don't spell it Hiram. That's anglicized spelling. It's Ket, Yod, Resh, Mim. And Hiram means elevated life or high life or higher existence or higher valence or higher frequency. It means the self above the physical dynamic self. You heard? So now when they kill, now what happens when you kill the higher self? Where does it go? Does it ascend? No. The higher self, when it dies, it descends. It comes down. And then it becomes physical. And this is the secret of Freemasonry in the three ruffians. People always like to say Hiram is the black man. That's a cultural interpretation. You heard? But that has nothing to do with the spiritual interpretation. Hiram, the spiritual interpretation is exposed when they discuss how Hiram, in fact, was brought down into the physical world by way of death by three ruffians whose names are Jubala, Jubalo, Jubalum. The is what killed Hiram. So is and whenever I own something, I vibrate it, and when I vibrate something, I make it visible. And when I vibrate it, I kill it. I'm bringing it down into the physical realm. So the whole secret of the word in Freemasonry is hidden within its ruffians, within the assassins. They're the ones who are or encompass the secret word of Freemasonry. Because all the words past the three degrees are the words used by politics to prove if you're really a Mason. But they don't have nothing to do with the spiritual aspect. Because they give you fake words in the first 3 degrees. Them degrees is just to see, they'll talk to you. But when you're getting in the red house and you're going up the ladder, they giving you different words, and they telling you that your degree work and your blue lodge is fake.
All right, thank you, brother.
Take care.
All right, appreciate you. Thank you. All right, we got some questions in the chat room. Let's go to them. One of the questions is, how do you feel about the contributions of Madame Blavatsky, Annie Besant, and Manly P. Hall?
They're all noteworthy, and I appreciate them. I'm not tripping on race. And Manly P. Hall, in particular, is, as a Masonic writer, is one of the only to give the most science without really no Masonic exposures. You heard? A lot of his books are real good, but he doesn't do any great degree of exposures. Annie Besant is awesome, and especially in the psychic modalities of thought, and of course, Blavatsky is she walked with Krishnamurti. She was a traveled and initiated mind. You know what I'm saying? That always presented throughout her life an exceptional ability to understand a lot of spiritual concepts. So, I don't get into all of the controversial, conspiratorial, the white folks, that shit is corny. We have a 140-year reading legacy here in the United States. I encourage people to read everything that they can get their hands on before books become illegal, which they already are in some capacities.
No doubt about it. I agree. Let's get into some more of the sciences on about the teachings of the Kabbalah and basically how it's the physics and basically how it relates back to the physical body in a lot of the regards, because that's the whole science is on how to transform this physical body into an immortal body or indestructible body. What's your thoughts on that? What else have you found regarding that particular science, Bart?
Well, it's all a mental science, so it just gives it makes, whenever you're dealing with something on a mental level, it creates a mental body for it. All thoughts are a body, Thought becomes a body, and the spiritual work on high depends on what it depends on the psychology of your environment. Eastern philosophy focuses on a suppression of the ego to advance one and for someone to become more spiritually advanced, they ask you to suppress your ego. Now, if you suppress your ego in Western psychology, you a sucker. You're going to be broke and stupid and naive. You know, you can't have nothing. You can't have a car. You can't have a house. You just got to chill, be naked, and beg and ask people for money, for prayers and shit. You know, you'll pray for them. You know, or you got to rub people's backs and give them Reiki and shit like that. And just suppress everything for free. You know what I mean?
Right.
But Western psychology, it's because we are in, especially if you're in the northeastern or the eastern part of the world, especially northeast, a lot of spiritual movements came up out the northeast because the environment, you got 4 extremes of weather. So the spiritual systems deal more so with ritual, and you acknowledging each of those 4 extremes, winter, summer, spring, fall. So gods that have 4-letter names like Yahweh, once you got that, you can understand Indian cosmology. You can understand, you know, the psychological, spiritual principles that underlie power. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
With people dealing with power. So, you know, I advise people who live here, get into your rituals. Get into ritual and spiritual systems that encompass dealing with ritual and start giving your mind some fabric to put on. You know?
No doubt about it. Now, also, when we get into these particular sciences of rituals, you have anything in which that you want to build on with that, as far as, you know, like people, what, you know, something, you know, basic, you know, simple, in which that they can begin to start doing, so that they can begin to start seeing and, like you said, building confidence.
Well,
you know, when it comes to science and magic.
I generally don't. I'm not telling nobody that. You know, I'm not saying that on the radio because I'm not in the business of doing that for free. I want people to plus I don't know these people listening, you know, and everybody conscious ain't our friend, and people that don't have an invested interest in their spirituality ain't no good know-how. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, it's a lot of people who've been sweating for years. They just been sitting up ripping shit off line and taking little lines here and going buying $5 DVDs for these bum-ass bootleggers and shit, you know, and I'm not going to tell them nothing that they're going to potentially use, and they have not invested their all into it, and then, you know, the shit just makes them more listless. It's like people that want to spend $40 on, they want to tell somebody to do their paperwork for them, but they don't want to get nobody what it costs. They want to give somebody $20, $40 to do a legal process that they know if they dumbass got locked up and them crackers put their ass in the clink, their mamas and them gonna be, why you ain't get a lawyer $5,000-$10,000 to get you out, when here it is they can have a remedy for themselves that'll put it so they don't be in none of that. You know, so and when you just disseminate and say certain spiritual concepts, like giving people rituals on the radio, you know, it undermines your spirituality as well, because I'm not doing nothing for $5. One, the Knicks play at the Garden, and I don't even do nothing for free. I did this for you because you my brother. I do this show and Know the Ledge, but people don't be hearing me on shows like that. I don't have no time for free. You know what I'm saying, Lord? For real. You know what I mean?
Everyone don't be offended, but that's the Scorpio, you know what I'm saying? And that's just how it is.
Yeah. The Scorpio moving into Saturn. I really can't play with that. I need my money. I need people to
That's right, because that's the disciplined teacher, God, and that Saturn is going to have to discipline.
And wherever your money is at is what you're really about. You heard?
Right.
Wherever your money goes is what you're really about. If all your money goes to crack, you a dope fiend. You heard? You're not a scientist. You know what I'm saying? If all your money go to McDonald's, you're a fast food addict. You heard?
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? That's, you know, so if your money is spent on spirituality and consciousness content, then you're conscious. You know what I'm saying? So I encourage people to hit me up. You got the phone number. You got the email, QABBALISTIC. People that are on, I got a student body that goes all the way out to Europe. You know, I got people in South America, you know, that's on, you know what I'm saying? That's on, you know, I got people, you know, generally all over that's really serious about this information. You know what I mean? So
right. We got another question in the chat room. The question is, I thought that the three ruffians is also symbolic to the three false religions known as Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, which hit us in our heads and which that robbed us of our knowledge of self and left us in an amnesic state.
That's a cultural interpretation. You know, well, because what was it before that? The three ruffians comes out of a set of documents that were that some of them are even pre-slavery. So, you know, they got, you know, the Freemasonry comes from a set of living documents, and some of them still exist. So it's mystical and traditional. All of those cultural interpretations from the 80s and the late 70s with like the brother who did, what's his name, who did the Islam, Judaism. Who was that? Was that Bilal Phillips? One of them brothers. Who was that wrote them books?
Oh, you're talking about up under you talking about Mustafa Al-Amin.
Was it him?
Yeah, who wrote Judaism, Christianity, and Islam?
No, the one who was talking about Freemasonry and all of that stuff.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I think he was running with Rob Dean and them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, you know, that stuff comes from that. I'm talking about metaphysics. You know, metaphysics it transcends culture. You know, culture is a limitation imposed by politics and it's a dialogue of repression. You heard? Where we constantly have to find meanings for stuff. Like a mystical tradition amongst oppressed people is for them to create fanciful mystical justifications for their imprisonment. You know, the Jews used to do it. The Jews did it by making themselves a chosen people who were denounced by the rest of the world, and then their salvation is predicated on the coming of a Messiah, which is a whole conceptualization based off of the sighting and astrological use of Saturn in mythology. You know, so again, that's just cultural. You know, it may serve the psychology of the questioner and the people around them, but I just offer the different, because you could go online and you can go listen to these shows where people just talk, or people who just talk to black people about cultural content. They have all of these cookie cut equations, like Israel means Isis, Ra, and El, which culturally makes sense, but it's the farthest thing from the truth. You heard? It don't mean Isis, Ra, and El. Israel don't mean Isis, Ra, and El. That's something that serves the like Solomon. People saying Solomon means soul, arm, and arm. No, it don't, because Solomon is the anglicized version of the word Sholima, which means that's biblical power. So see that's what has stopped me for so long, Alim.
I understand, God, because I mean Israel.
When I get into the science, people bring me back to cultural stuff. They tell me that I have to address the cultural reality, and that's not where I'm going. You know, I did that. I'm a child of that. My mother was NGTGCC. You know, they was there when it first came out. The Black Man is God. The English C lesson. My mother still have her English C lessons from 1968, 1970. You heard? You know, that's old. You know, it's actually new, but black people have, again, only have been reading for 140 years. You heard? If that. So everything is like new to us. You know? Everything, literally. It's embarrassing.
No doubt about it. And for Yahweh, in Hebrew, Israel means to ascend to God. You know, and it actually is a clear interpretation of the fact of the energy within you moving up the spinal column to the crown, or to what we can refer to as the third or fourth eye, in which that illuminates the mind to ascend to God. You know, is the symbolic transliteration of that, you know, from the Hebrew terminology. You know, so
in ancient psychology, and far more ancient psychology, Israel would actually be Asar El. It would be Asar's light. Right. It would be Asar's light, or you know, Asar's light, which is a black light. Right. You know.
Yeah. So I mean, y'all got to definitely go back and do this research, because, like you said, you know, Israel, you know, or Isis Ryan, I mean, it does sound good. I mean, I've used it as far as culturally also, you know, but when we get down to it, when we get into the words and terminology, you know, you definitely have to take it back to the source. And like Brother A. Rashid just said, I mean, it goes back to All-Saw, you know, or All-Saw Ray, you know, which symbolizes, like he said, is the light of light, you know, or symbolic actually to the limitless light, in which that goes back to the Ayin, you know, principle. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, y'all got to go and do the research on that. All right, God, let me see if you got anybody else on the call. Area code 314. Area code 314.
Peace. Islam, or
Islam.
Islam. L from St. Louis, Missouri Republic. Yes, sir. I was listening to what you were talking about, the name Israel. There's also different variations of interpretations of the word. It depends upon who you want to believe. The same thing with Solomon. I believe it's three. Well, not I believe, but it's also variations of the interpretation of the word on. Sol be the Roman Latin word for sun, and on could be the Hindu word for sun or light, and on could be the ancient Kemetic word for sun or light. Because when you come into a dark room, you switch the light does what? It comes on. So I don't usually get into the what you call debate over those, because there's so many variations. Like the brother Rashid said, that it can be a culture interpretation of that. So that said, so what do you have to say about that, brother?
Generally the same thing I said before. You know, the what was it? What was it before the word Solomon even came out? Before Sol and On came out, you know, what was it then? So, you know, culture demands from us different things at different points and periods. So it's really not, you know, you said you wasn't into debates, and neither am I. You know what I'm saying? This, you know, it's a good point. You know, when I was early in my development, I used to teach people. I used to use those as methods to impart certain truths to them so they can delve and see further into it. But it's those are Western mystical traditions linked to English. Again, the word Solomon comes from it's actually a number, goes back to the biblical pi. For those who are under my student tutelage and who have indulged themselves in my class and know that I've already gone deep into the science of who Solomon is biblically and what that means spiritually, and that his name, Solomon, the name itself, is encoded all throughout the Book of Kings 1 and 2 within the edifices and the mathematics of the structures that they're speaking about. You can find the number 375, which is the equivalent of Solomon's name, encoded in much of the architecture which is a ancient African practice of putting the leader's name. And it's a tradition also indulged in Mesopotamia, but as well as in Kim, to take the name of the ruler and encode it within the architecture of the building. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, Solomon is a very interesting concept. You know, very interesting concept. But I just want my brothers and sisters and everybody who listens to what I have to impart to know. I don't want them walking in error, especially in light of the fact that there's so much information out there that can bestow upon us a greater method, greater modalities of actually understanding what it is that we say that we believe in. You know?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I was also listening to what you're saying about the word Abith after Hiram.
Yes,
and, you said Abith is not in the Bible.
No, Abith, the concept, the word Hiram Abith is not in the Bible, no.
It's not in the Bible?
No, the word Hiram Abith is not in the Bible, no.
Okay. Abith, actually, again, you know, we go through culture and metaphysics and symbolisms. Abith, you could say, go back to the Latin word Abi, meaning his father.
Well,
Abith can go back to the word his father.
It's older words like Abu in Arabic that means father.
Okay.
It's not in the Bible. There's no such thing as a person named Hiram Abith in the Bible. That was my point. You know.
No. Okay. But I'm saying, no, like that. No, you won't find it in the Bible. Hiram Abith. No, you would never find that.
Okay.
But the word you have to look for it. I wish I had the Bible with me. I can kind of show you what I'm talking about.
No, I'm clear on what you're talking about. The word for father
it is in the Bible, though. Abith is in the Bible. But
it may
not
be, but it
Abith.
has nothing. It doesn't have anything to do with the Masonic personage. Hiram Abith, that's in Masonry, is not in the Bible. They use a Hiram from who is from the tribe of Naphtali in the Bible. Masonry puts the word Abith on him. That's my point.
Okay, brother. But like I say, I beg to differ. But
there's nothing to differ. You actually can't differ. It's like we having it's one of them conversations these is one of the conversations I don't have. In particular, having with people that's not initiated into Freemasonry. I am a Freemason. I wrote a book on the subject.
So am I, sir.
All right. Well, I don't know what kind of degree work they're doing over there, and that's the thing that I witness. I bear witness all the time. It's a lot of Masons walking in error.
I agree.
You know,
I agree with you. Most of them, the vast majority of them are.
Right.
You got some that believe there was an actual person named Hiram Abith.
Right.
So, you know. But I'd like to get you. What's your name again, so I can order your books?
My name is A.A. Rashid.
A.A. Rashid. Okay. And you said something about the Kabbalistic
and metaphysics, square, compass, and letter G.
Okay.
And that's available in ebook form, and it's a classic.
It is.
Okay.
I got it when it first came out, and I can tell you I still have it. 8 years later, it's a classic. You would never want to put it down, because they answer so many questions about these particular sciences.
Yes, sir. Like I said, I've done a lot of studies and dealing with Rosicrucianism and Masonry, and
the guy who made up Rosicrucianism, Pascal Beverly Randolph.
Pascal Beverly Randolph. Okay.
Yeah.
I hit the one.
He said that Rosicrucianism was one of his outer faces. They had a deeper science involved. When you read into much of the Rosicrucian literature, from the Europeans' perspective, it's only really three documents that substantiate Rosicrucian existence outside of Pascal's influence, and those documents are what spiritually created the whole concept of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. The same modality of a woman, a damsel in distress who needs to be saved. The Rosicrucian documents is really talking about the paper ones that the white folks be drawing off of. Is 3 of them, and they're the ones that attribute to the authorship of Christian Rosenkreuz. Talk about a woman whose land was about to be stolen from the Moors. Comes from around, that period when we started getting, maligned in history. You know what I'm saying? All of our civic duties in society were now being taken from us, so they had to demonize us in all of the stories and whatnot. So, I mean, it's a lot of twisted terms. Rosicrucianism is good. It's an American thing, though. You know what I mean? And it's cool. It's cool. We should use those things to make moves and build buildings and stuff like that. That's really what that type of information is for, to organize men around real things. The African American male is the most denuded entity on the planet because he can't get along with his counterpart, and as well with his brother, because they're always arguing because they're really not initiated. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir. Exactly. Yes, I look at all of it as a stem off from more science anyway. That's right. The way I look at it. All of it comes from more science, Kemetic more science teachings.
That's right.
All right. Thank you, Brother L. You got another question here? Hold on. Area code 916. Area code 916. You on the line?
Peace. What's going on? Hey, Rashid. Ooh, big up.
What up, Lord?
Oh man, everything's everything. This is how I call from Cali, man. Okay, good question for you. Speaking on the Kabbalah and the alphabet alone, do you know anything about the missing letter that they mentioned?
A missing letter.
Yes. It's okay. It's just a book that I picked up, and it has in it, list the alphabet going through the 22, and then it's the 23rd one, which is they mentioned it's a missing letter. And
it's the Sheen. It's supposed to come back when the Messiah arrives.
Okay,
that's a mystical tradition. It's 23 letters, but it really is 23 letters. It's just a different sound for the letter Sheen. And 23 is a backwards variant of 32, the number of teeth you have in your mouth.
Okay. So, I could barely hear you in the background, but you right on top of what I'm saying though, because so you're saying it's one of the mother letters then, the Sheen, because Sheen's one of the mother letters, right?
Right.
And okay, so it's adjacent with the Messiah coming back. So what is that saying though? Is that saying that look forth for a woman to bring the sound, or You know what I
mean? Well, you mix in two concepts. The three mother letters are the letters that are attributed to elements to manifest creation. So Aleph, Mim, and Sheen are the three mother letters that correspond to fire, water, and air. Now, the Messiah is a construct psychologically inside of Judaism to substantiate the it's called paranesis. Hold on, brother.
Oh.
It's called paranesis. Paranesis is the method employed by a particular philosophy, and the philosophy is promulgated by a priesthood. So their paranesis is created from a consideration of astrology and astronomy. So when you hear the concept of the Messiah or the Messiah coming, it's a stellar alignment. And we know when the stellar alignments come, we get enhancements in our spirituality, or what gets imposed on us are limitations based on certain planetary bodies. So Saturn plays into the psychology of Judaism, because Saturn brings about limits. That's why on Saturn Day, Sabbath day, you have to rest. You can't work. You understand?
Okay. Yeah, that's good. That's good. That covers it. It gives me a clear understanding, because see, because I'm just connecting basically the Hebrew alphabet with like the because you mentioned the astrology, the astronomy, with the days of the week. You see, and
right.
The things that apply with those letters, practice those during those days.
Right.
Are you okay? So, are there hours that line up with the alphabet during the day? Do you know of?
Yeah, that comes into the consideration of what's called the Shib HaMephorish. The Shib HaMephorish speaks about the 72 deacons, or the periods that are experienced by the stellar and solar, as well as lunar imperatives throughout the day. There's 72 degrees. To each degree, there is an angelic force attributed to it. You can find them all in the book of Exodus, when Moses split the Red Sea, and those 72 are the same 72 conspirators from from Kim.
All right. Yeah. I've been looking for that part right there too. Okay, good feeling. All right, I enjoy to speak everything that you bring, man. I listen to you quite a lot, so you're very informative, and just big ups, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, where in Cali you at?
I'm in SAC. I got a little show I do. It's a little 30-minute spot on Friday, and I brought on one of your young brothers on there a few Fridays ago, Ink, and covered quite a few things and stuff. So, keeping things, well tuned and trying to keep connects, out that way. I know you in L.A. and stuff, so
right.
I got folks out that way and doing some things too with the kids. So. Yeah, okay. You put the information on on this show, so I'm going to archive and I'll definitely link up with you and stuff. So,
all right, Lord.
Okay.
All right, thank you, brother. Appreciate you.
Oh man, no doubt.
All right, we got area code 321. Area code 321. You're on the line. Peace. All right. We got 3 minutes left. Anything you want to depart to us, brother? Rashid, before we get up off of here?
Peace to the family, and I just want everybody to keep learning, and don't be a sweater all your life. Be a better.
Yeah, right.
Don't be no damn car thief. Buy a car. You know what I'm saying?
No doubt.
What you spend your money on is where you about. So. Ain't nothing free in the universe.
No doubt, God. Appreciate you coming on, and of course,
even God pay rent. The rent He pays is called your life.
Right.
No
doubt. Appreciate you, God, for coming on, man. I'm telling you, and of course, time else that you want to come on and say some parting words, definitely you can come on, God. You know how it is.
No question. Appreciate you though, Lord.
All right, same here, God.
All right, peace, Lord.
All right, peace, God.
First World Order Radio. Finally, we are on the air. No doubt. All right.
There's always going to be somebody in the building on First World Order Radio.
We get on into some of that order consciousness tonight.
First World Order Radio every Wednesday, 8 p.m.
We got to talk about what is taking place on the planet.
There's always going to be somebody in the building on First World Order Radio. First, we need to let you know we're going to be doing more shows, giving out more information on Wednesdays. Wednesday at 8 o'clock, we are now going to make this the hottest day of the week.
Preceding others in time, order, importance. The most prominent parts, voices, or instruments. Earthly state of human concerns in existence. An indefinite multitude, quantity, or distance. System regulates to bring about specifics in the root based on value and natural characteristics. Current radiates electromagnetistics of sound through the air, same as your thoughts transmits it. Preceding others in time, order, importance. The most prominent parts, voices, or instruments. Earthly state of human concerns in existence. An indefinite multitude, quantity, or distance. System regulates to bring about specifics in the root based on value and natural characteristics. Current radiates electromagnetistics of sound through the air, same as your thoughts transmits it.
You need to understand how magical this, something like this every Wednesday can become. So you need to start getting your calendar right, get your schedule right. You need to know our intention straight out.
All right, so these clues are given throughout the various languages was to piece the puzzle of this ancient mystery school back together again.
And what we plan on doing, both of us, is bringing y'all some surefire dynamite. We're going to take this level up a notch. We're going to have stuff to do here. This is not just going to be about philosophies and theories, shit that works.
You have to activate a pilot gland in which I produced this black chemical called melanin.
What we did was gave a hard line in the sand between the different definitions of esoteric study